guys, so this is the first video of 5 of the top 5 tips to improve your squatting. So before I do get into the tips, I just want to touch on the fact that some of these tips are going to seem a bit basic to some of you. Some of them are going to be things that you may be already doing, or you may have done in the past, tried, and maybe dismissed it, thought you were too advanced for it. For some of you, this will be stuff that you've not even thought about. So I think either way, it's important to remember that sometimes the reason that you're not progressing or the way that you can improve something is not necessarily a new trick or a new hack or whatever you want to call it. It might be something that's actually really basic that you need to go back and revisit, or something that you need to enhance or improve that you've maybe tried in the past and overlooked and let slip as time goes on. So the first thing I want to touch on is a warm-up, and I know what you're thinking, it's really boring. Typically we get in the gym, we don't want to spend time rolling around on the floor or preparing, we just want to get in because we're rushed, we're busy, we just want to get in and start squatting or deadlifting or whatever the exercise might be. However, as I've touched on in kind of the writing above this, to expect yourself to be able to just run into a heavy session without any kind of preparation is maybe a little bit naive. And I think in general, we do want to be spending a bit more time preparing in some way. So I'm going to propose below a few links of other people's warm-up ideas that I think help. Stuff that I've used in the past, particularly stuff from Bryce Lewis and Joe DeFranco. Both of those guys have produced resources that are very comprehensive, and typically, especially Joe DeFranco's Limber 11, does take quite a while, sort of 20 minutes or so. So I'm going to touch on now kind of one exercise that really helped me in terms of positioning, in terms of stretching the right muscles, and then just if you have 5 minutes and you have to get something in that day, so you're really restricted on your time, you need to warm up in some way, this would be the sort of thing that I would suggest that you do. Okay, so this is where I recommend people begin their warm-up for a squat session. Why is that? Well, before we get into the bottom of the squat with load on our back, it makes sense to make sure that we can sit in this position comfortably. There's no obvious restrictions, there's no pain, tightness that's created by either the day or just, your general physiological makeup. You maybe have restrictions like me in that getting depth is difficult with long legs, for example, or it could be that tightness in your hips, adductors, hamstrings are creating it a difficult situation for hitting depth. So sitting in this position, seeing how it feels, being very aware of what feels tight and what feels restrictive. So for me, I have some IT band tightness here that I can feel from sitting down and then rocking side to side. This ankle feels slightly tighter, it's coming off the ground more, as you can probably see there. So what I would maybe then go and do for the next 5-10 minutes of my warm-up, rather than just generic stretching and generic rolling around, might be to address this IT band and address this ankle, and at least that's then some productive work done rather than just generic kind of work on my hip capsule or whatever it might be. And then I would as well complement that with some dynamic exercise to raise heart rate, etc., get the body warm, ready for exercise. The other thing to do with this that I found helps me, typically people experience butt wink in a squat or a rounding of the lower back, and that's because they fail to get their knees out enough, so there's not enough space for the hips to operate. Obviously there's a lot more going on there, but that's a catch-all, tends to work for most people. So you can cue that by just sitting in this position, elbows into the sides of your legs like that, and try to level or make your forearms parallel to the floor. And you can contract, relax, so try to squeeze the elbows together and then relax and push out, and then just move in along the thigh as you go. So this is how I recommend that most people start their warm-up, just to sit in this position, roll around, see how you feel. It could be that you sit here and it feels fantastic. You've maybe not been sat down much that day, or you're just ready to squat, in which case there's not really much need apart from getting the body warm that you need to continue rolling around or foam rolling. So that's the warm-up.